Hey guys, you are officially watching episode 2 of the Myk and Myk podcast. If you guys missed episode 1, the link for that particular video will be listed in the link in the description area below. Without further ado, episode 2. Let's get it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's crazy though.
because we asked like
Kind
how far is it? It's like 3 hours, like 2.5 hours, okay? And coming from Chicago, you go from the suburbs to take a taxi to O'Hare or Midway, you're paying $70 no matter what. So so you're just like, all right, okay, like
fair enough.
it doesn't hit, and so we did that, but I remember you go from the airport, right, and then once you get out the terminal area, then you start hitting those bad areas. That was like
Exactly.
a straight up culture shock. You're just like, what? I still remember. I was like, oh my god, it came back because we've done like Catholic missions while we were in school. We went outside the school and helped out, and I remember I've seen those and helping out those.
Right.
But
All right.
this one was like a flashback. So like that first hit of seeing, because poor in America, you can go to like 7th Street in LA. You can go to certain places outside of Chicago and stuff like that, whatever.
Right.
But that first hit of poor people is like is
Changed your life,
is
man.
tragic. What was your first
Yeah.
experience with that? With like seeing poor people?
I said this story one time before, but when I arrived the first time in the Philippines, it was at nighttime. So we're
Mm,
in the taxi, we get to the condo, we're chilling. So I didn't get to see anything until the next day. So my dad says, "Yo, let's get up, let's go out. I want to take you to, Manila Bay. I just go because it's walking
um,
distance from where my dad's condo is." So I step outside and immediately I say, "Yo, this shit different, right? This shit is way different. You're seeing just beggars on the side of the road, street vendors, and then the side of the street vendors, you're seeing beggars and people sitting there. Saw people shitting and pissing on the side of the road. This is day one, man, and this is not something I'm used to. All right, so yeah, every now and again you might have some drunk dude who's on the side of the road, who's on a bender, fucking want to take his dick out, piss on the side of the street. It's okay in the United States. That's one person, but to see babies,
mm,
kids, moms, and families on the street, it's like, yo, this shit's something else. And my dad, he's like damn near giving me life lessons as we're walking down the street. It's like, yo, man, this is sometimes everyday life for the majority of the people here. This place it's overall, if you want to look at it, it's a poor place. And you're going to see some experiences here that'll change your life. It's going to make you feel away sometimes. I mean, because granted, you don't like to see people in such harsh conditions. I mean, damn, if you got a heart, you would hope that you wouldn't want to see people like that. But he's like, son, I got to tell you the truth, man. No matter how hard it hits you, son, you can't save them all. So don't feel as though you have an obligation to try to help everybody that you see. And although it sounded harsh, over time you started to realize exactly from where it was coming from when he said it. So, when you experience poverty like that, man, it definitely opens your eyes. And like you said, people in the United States think that they've seen poverty. No, not even close. I mean, I would probably say or equate it to some parts in Africa, right? In reference
mm,
to the level of poverty. Like if you haven't been to Africa or the Philippines, I don't think that you've really experienced like real life poverty and what it really means for a person to live in these man-made houses and shanties and whatnot, and have people build shit on the side of streets, right? Just bathe on the side of the road with water hoses and shit. I mean, if you go to the Bukis and the mountain and stuff, it's a little bit different because they got watering holes where literally the entire barangay goes and washes themselves. First time I ever seen people wash themselves with their clothes on. I said, what the fuck is this? Like, I mean, I've never seen people take showers with their clothes on. I said, what is this? I understood it. I mean, you're in public. I mean, of course you want to, but I'm like, so basically it's like doing your laundry and washing your ass at the exact same time. That's what I'm thinking
mm,
in my head, but it's definitely a differing experience. And when I saw it, I was like, yo, this is crazy. But on the flip side of it, I got to see what the peso really meant to the dollar. And I got to see, yo, man, we could really live a decent life for ourselves in a place like this. Granted, it's not perfect all the way around. Most of the country, you may say, is in poverty, but there are some very beautiful places. There are some nice places here. Like, I can live my best life and I don't have to spend a lot to do it. I can go
mm,
to a beach resort and it's not going to cost me everything that I have in my pocket to be able to enjoy a weekend here. So when you start to see and understand the benefits that you can have in reference to experiences to be had in the country, you're like, well, although I hate to see it in this position, I understand that from a foreigner perspective, I can do relatively well here. Like I can maximize my money well in a country like this. And once you take that into consideration, it definitely opens your eyes to like the different types of things you can get into when you realize it's like 20, 30, $40 to fly from one island to the other, depending on what airline you use. Of course, maybe $60. 60 to 100 in fairness, to fly from Manila to Cebu or from Manila to Davao, or take a bus here, hang out over in Cagayan. We can't forget Cagayan de Oro.
Nope.
Right. Shout out to Cagayan. When you realize that you can go to these different locations and it doesn't really cost you much to get there, and you realize that you can share in a different experience, in different locations in the country, it's like, I get it, but only when you're there can you really, visualize and realize exactly what you can stand to gain from it. But in fairness, let me get back to your story. In AC, you went to Angeles City. How can I say this? What was your experience like with Angeles City? And when you got there, did you know about Walking Street? Did you hit up Walking Street? Was it just, let me just chill here in the hotel and let's go find a little beach area or something? Or, somebody said, yo, man, I read in your little PDF printout, man, Angeles City, they said we should go to Walking Street. They had like a whole player's guide and shit. How did it work out for you?
So we had there was a picture of Walking Street, of the entrance to Walking Street around that time, right? So we knew what it was. We knew there was in the ebook that my boy bought. There was a map of Walking Street in there as well. There was a map, so you know where to go and stuff like that. And what's the problem is with that map is it doesn't have like, the I forgot what they call it in for maps, where the measurements, so you know how far this place is from
Kilometers.
here. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? You know how you put a pencil next to it and you start figuring out, right, to measure it.
Mm-hmm.
So we're trying to use our thinking caps, and we're like, well, we shouldn't really stay in Walking Street fully because that might be just too busy. We need our time. So let's figure out. So we ended up staying at this place called the Clarkton Hotel.
Okay.
So pretty much, if this is Walking Street, it ends, right? Clarkton is all the way down the street to the end of the road as well. Okay. So, but the Clarkton Hotel is a nice hotel, especially in the photos that they had online back in the days around that time. You have to understand, this was still dial-up time. We were still dial-up. Okay, that's what we were still using dial-up around this time. This is, and so like we stayed at the Clarkton. It was a decent hotel. It looks better now. They fixed it up even better now. I stayed there just for nostalgic reason, like 4 years ago, just because. And so we didn't want to go to Walking Street yet because it was we're like, let's just chill, have some food, and there was a restaurant next door, so we didn't. We went to the restaurant next door. That's when when I realized, I'm like, just like as you, the difference of the dollar and the peso. Because I had a beer, Jess had a beer, and before you know it, we only spent like $8 for the amount of food that we had, plus the drinks. When we know, when we used to go out before, after we're done eating, we would be spending $60, $70 for the same type of eating that we did. And so that was that. But going back into the Clarkton Hotel, he calls me up from his room, and I'm walking towards his room, and he's outside the door, and I was like, "Why are you outside the room?" And he's like, "Oh, I have housekeeping taking care of business right now." I was like, "Was the room dirty?" And he's like, "No, there's a cockroach in there." And I'm like, "Well, why'd you pick it up yourself?" And he's like, "No, I'm paying for hotel room. They're taking the cockroach." So I'm like, look at my boy. I was like, bro, and so this was like the beginning of a bad day. Like, this is the beginning of the bad day. Like you know things we're not gonna happen that day a little bit. So, so did that, and then I walked in and I looked at the guy catching the cockroach. The housekeeper was like laughing his ass off. He's like just laughing. And I'm just like laughing too because I'm like,
foreigners, man.
Yeah, exactly. So
Fucking
so
you bougie bitches, just
yeah,
bougie. So.
bougie. And so like, okay, time to go to the Clarkton, right? Time to go to the Walking
Yeah.
Street. So we're done. Like, let's go to the Walking Street. So you go to Walking. So we had to take a tricycle, right?
Mm-hmm.
Take a tricycle, head up there, and then. But later on, the worst part, we found out the hotel has shuttle service, so we could have used the shuttle service instead of the damn trike, right? I don't even remember how much we paid for the trike, but we ended up having to take 2 trikes because the trikes over in Angeles City is really small. Him and I wouldn't fit in the inside, and he didn't want to hang out in the outside, behind the driver, and I wasn't gonna do it either. So we ended up taking 2 trikes. So here you go, going down the damn road in 2 trikes just to head up to the Walking Street. Head up to Walking Street, and man, oh man, this is where guys need to just relax. And first bar we walked into, it was just like, what is this? I don't understand. Like, because guys thinking they're gonna come to the Philippines for a U.S. type strip club. It's not what it is in the Philippines. And just like you're talking about, like, they're playing some Journey, some Eagles. They're playing, and then that weird grinding dance that the girls do. Like what is this? What's going on?
It's cringy as fuck. It's cringy as hell, man. But every girl in the club does it. It's like they all have the same, bakla over there.
Choreographer. The same Becky choreographer.
Becky's getting it, boy. He goes to bar teaching them all the same moves on the pole and shit. It's crazy, man. Oh god.
Even nowadays with the dance, when they have a routine dance, like the girls will do a routine. You go from like one bar to the other, and you're like, wait a minute, it's the same routine. I was like, how's that going on? But yeah, that was.
I can honestly say though, the best part about the bar experience is when I don't want to use the word parade because it's Women's Month in March, but when they have all the, that's what somebody told me today. I was like, hey, I didn't even. Let me not go there. But when like they put them all out there and they parade them all out. So now you pretty much have an idea of all the girls in the club, and they put them underneath the lights because a lot of you guys know you go into a bar, man, it's dead, it's dark. Mm-hmm. You don't know who the hell you're really talking to. So when you put them all underneath the light, you actually get an idea of who you've been talking to or who you might be interested in talking to. It kind of makes it a little bit easier because you're like, well, now that I know that she's not necessarily my type. She doesn't look like somebody I would like. Now you say, okay, I like number 6 because they always seem to have a number somewhere on them or some shit. Because I guess that's how they're pretty much identified in the club. Like, yo, I like number 6. Like some of you don't know names, right? You don't know Cherry from Annalise or from Alana or whatever the fuck. You don't know their names, so you're like, yeah, we're number 6, or like who's number 7 tonight? And I know it sounds crazy, but that's just how they are identified in these club settings. So. Granted, my first club experience was epic as hell because, you sit them down next to you and shit, everybody all flirty and shit. I'm 17 years old, happy as shit. And I'm not going to tell you how the night ended, but, it was just one of those experiences where you're like, yo, man, this shit is cool. Like, this is different. Like I said, if you've been to the strip club in the United States, like I said, it's a little way different than in the Philippines. Like you get a whole different experience. Me, I had nothing to compare it to. So for me, it was just all awesome. Music glaring and shit. It had that club smell. Every club has a club smell. And I don't know what it is about the club smell. It smells like, I call it like, it's like a mildewy smell, just a little bit. Depends on what corner
mothballs.
Mothballs.
The mothball smell. Mothball and sweat.
Bro, and the one thing that freaks me out, I always sit at the table, right, with the chairs. I don't sit at the booths and shit that have that cloth or that like carpet feel to it because I don't know what the fuck is in these what is on this this chair and shit. You should be looking, you just be praying that no fucking cockroach crawls from around the corner, fucking lands on your shoulder and shit. I'm telling you, clubs in the Philippines, bro, those experiences are crazy, but they're some of the best I've ever had, man. It's just bugging. But yeah, man, I can't. But I always remember it, man. It's always something that's always readily in my mind, man. But it's a live and learn, man. So how many bars did you hit up that night? Do you remember?
Yeah, 4.
were they all pretty much the same in your opinion? Did you find one that kind of stood out a little bit more than the other based on
E-
the females that were there, or you know?
Every single every single bar on the first night was horrible. It was freaking
Okay.
horrible. And the reason why is, so this is why you can't trust ebooks sometimes, right? Because the ebooks was from a perspective of a really cheap mongerer, I guess you can actually just say that. Just like, because that's the only content you can get. So his go-to bars were the small ones. And so he's like talking about, oh, there's gonna be a bunch of girls who are like, he even had raid. And so it's like, all right, you just go there and stuff like that, because it's a growing it's a growing experience for a man to get into these kind of things. So it was like really bad stuff. And then yeah, it was we went to, what do you call this thing, lollipops, that's still around. We went to like, oh my god, I forgot the names, but like straight up, it was like really, it was just bad. I mean, and funny that you say about the cockroach crawling. We've experienced where we had the boutique, the little gecko crawling like in our in the floor, and you're just like, yeah, that's the Philippines, and you're just like,
You look at it and it looks back at you like, what, bro?
yeah, it was.
He's like, yo, man, you must be that gecko, bro. You just over here trying to get you a little bit too, bro. I ain't mad at you, man. Chill, just have your fun, man. Hey, I won't bother you. You ain't gotta worry about me, man. I promise not to step on you. I promise.